A Fox News alert in what is an unprecedented situation in American politics. Fox News is now able to confirm from a Clinton campaign aide that Hillary Clinton was email interviewed this morning by the FBI as it related to her email scandal. Remember, this is a criminal investigation. This video from just outside her home in Washington, D.C. about a half an hour ago, the convoy carrying Mrs. Clinton, presumably coming back from FBI headquarters, arrived at her home. A statement now from Nick Merrill, spokesman for the campaign. Secretary Clinton gave a voluntary interview this morning about her email arrangements while she was secretary. She is pleased to have had the opportunity to assist the Department of Justice in bringing this review to a conclusion. Out of respect for the investigative process, she will not comment further on her interview. And of course, there are going to be a lot of people taking that statement apart, most notably perhaps, this issue of quote-unquote this review. And we remember that Hillary Clinton for so long has called this a security review. We know James Comey, the head of the FBI, has said the FBI does not conduct security reviews. They conduct criminal investigations. Pictures of Mrs. Clinton during her time as Secretary of State, when we now know that she was using that BlackBerry that she has in her hand, not connected to some type of very secure State Department email server, but connected to her home email server. After that story broke, the FBI has launched its investigation. We know the FBI has recovered the hard drive from Hillary Clinton's private email server. What they got off of that, we don't know. The big questions, of course, are what happened inside this meeting? What does the FBI know? What did Mrs. Clinton say?
And what are we going to learn from it?
And did she take the Fifth Amendment at any point during that meeting, which she had the opportunity to do? Lots of questions here. We're in so many ways in uncharted waters 2 weeks now before the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, and we've been following this obviously for quite some time. We knew that the interview was going to be the end of the investigation. We would hear a conclusion from the FBI at that time, but we didn't necessarily know when the interviews were going to take place. We knew that Mrs. Clinton didn't have any campaign events this weekend, that she had been pushing off the possibility, although she had volunteered to meet with investigators. So it's certainly a moment that we have been waiting for. Our own Jennifer Griffin is live outside of Hillary Clinton's home in Washington, D.C. Jennifer, you just heard the news. Obviously, you also were notified from the campaign. I want to get your reaction and also what activity you're seeing there at the home, obviously.
Well, Elizabeth, what we can confirm is that she did meet with the FBI at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. this morning. The meeting lasted about 3.5 hours. We're seeing right now what appears to be her convoy leaving the residence, followed by the Secret Service. Her convoy has just left. I saw a silhouette of what may have been Secretary Clinton sitting in the right-hand rear seat of that vehicle. But we've received a statement from the campaign saying that, quote, Secretary Clinton gave a voluntary interview this morning about her email arrangements while she was secretary. She is pleased to have had the opportunity to assist the Department of Justice in bringing this review to a conclusion. Out of respect for the investigative process, she will not comment further on her interview. That's from Nick Merrill, the spokesman for Secretary Clinton. We just received it as we were on air just a few minutes ago. Again, the activity here at the House suggests that Secretary Clinton has now left the residence. It's not clear if she'll be heading back to Chappaqua, New York, to her home there. Back to you, Elizabeth.
All right. Jennifer Griffin reporting live. Thank you so much.
We're going to work on her microphone and see if we can't bring her back for some insights. It's pretty interesting, though, when you take apart this statement here from the campaign, and this has been the whole issue with Hillary Clinton as she has responded to these accusations about her email server. So carefully worded is this statement, and as though Hillary Clinton is not a subject of this investigation. And we're learning really from the FBI and from others that the FBI conducts only criminal investigations, and she would be the target of that criminal investigation. So we're going to figure out how to bring in Steve Pomerantz here in a little while, former assistant director of the FBI, and get his insights on this. Not only the process, but what happens inside these interviews, what kind of questions are asked. There was a lot of speculation that James Comey, the FBI director himself, might have been the one to conduct this interview. Goes without saying, that would be unusual to say the least.
All right, and I also want to bring in Steve Moore. He's a senior economic advisor to Trump. Steve, if you don't mind joining us in this conversation, we saw a statement, security review, not criminal investigation. I do want to get your reaction and, of course, let our viewers know that you are, in fact, working with the Trump campaign.
Sure. Well, look, Elizabeth, I think this is the scandal that just won't go away for Hillary. And, you know, she thought that this was going to be the end of the process. And with the news that's come out this week and even today about the FBI interview, it looks like this is the beginning stages of this. And, of course, what's on the mood of so many voters, as you all know, is the word that you haven't really spoken, which is indictment. Whether she's going to be indicted over these charges, that would throw a wrench in this whole campaign, wouldn't it? And so one other quick thing. It's interesting that Hillary's been so mum about this. She's tried to trivialize this whole scandal from the very beginning. But, you know, if you look at the Inspector General report that just came out a few weeks ago, it was interesting. She basically did not cooperate with the IG. It looks like she's lawyering up on this, which, you know, makes her look a little guilty to me.
And I don't know if you're privy. Can you give us any insight on behind the scenes of the Trump campaign? You said you used the word indictment, but obviously campaigns need to prepare for all scenarios. On one hand, if there is an indictment. On the other hand, if charges are dropped or the outcome is opposite of that. What is going on behind the scenes, can you tell us, to prepare for all scenarios?
Yeah, well, look, I work on economics with Mr. Trump, not this issue. But you know, there's so many different possible outcomes here. I mean, what happens if she does get indicted? I have no idea whether that's going to happen, although it's looking a little bit more probable than it was a week ago. How does that change the whole election season? What happens in the Democratic convention? Can she run for president if she's indicted? These are all questions that no one really knows the answer to right now.
Steve, Leland here. Interesting, though, when you think about the messaging coming out of the Trump campaign over the past month or so, we keep hearing the words crooked Hillary. That seems to be Donald Trump's nickname for Hillary Clinton, even putting out something today on Twitter that caused a lot of controversy about that as well. Yet that messaging from the Trump campaign really hasn't seemed to work in the polls. Over the past month or so, if you look at the averages, Donald Trump's gone down by 4, 5, 6 points in the horse race poll. So why is the American public not responding to what you're talking about right now?
Well, Leland, I disagree with you a little bit. There's no question that Donald Trump had a really bad 2 or 3 weeks there a few weeks ago, no question about it. And he dropped a lot in the polls. Remember the Mexico judge comment, which really hurt him. But I actually think in the last 2 weeks, he's made a gigantic comeback. And that speech that he gave, what was it, about a week and a half ago, where he really aggressively went after Hillary as crooked Hillary and just went through point by point by point all of the scandals that have been associated with Hillary. And then you look at this week, Leland, I mean, can you imagine a candidate having a worse week where first you have the Benghazi report come out and now the email scandal seems to be escalating. I think this has been a really good week for Donald Trump's campaign, and I think this right now is a toss-up election.
Well, unquestionably, it's been a really bad week for the Clinton for the Clinton campaign, which sometimes in politics actually ends up being a little bit better for you. What do you make of the fact that for the next 2 weeks, Clinton is going to have to not only be answering questions about what she answered to the FBI, she's going to have to be talking about the email scandal. She's going to be having to talk about Clinton, meaning her husband, meeting with the Attorney General, something that clearly didn't work out so well or as planned. How does Donald Trump capitalize in the next 2 weeks to try to take the wind out of her sails going into the DNC?
Well, I would simply say this, that the biggest problem, and when you tie all this stuff together, you know, in terms of how this affects the election, there's that trust issue, you know, and if you look at those polls, Elizabeth and Leland, you know, there's 2 problems Hillary has right now. She is way behind Donald Trump in handling on the economy, and on the trust issue, you just see a trust deficit with Hillary. And all of these scandals and what's happened this week only reinforces the Trump campaign message, which is she is not trustworthy. You can't trust. The Clintons always seem to be 1/2 step ahead of the law. And again, this has been a terrible week for her. Whether she can recover is very questionable, especially given, you know, what the FBI, that meeting with Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch. I mean, all of this just looks like a big cover-up.
Well, whether it looks like a cover-up, I'll leave to you, but certainly it seems as though everybody would like to have the do-over that does not happen in presidential politics. As you pointed out, Mr. Trump learned that a couple of weeks ago as well. Steve Moore, Fox News contributor with the Trump campaign as well. Stand by for us, sir. We're going to bring you back in a little bit later for your thoughts. Okay. Liz has more now.
I do. I want to bring in Jennifer Griffin because Leland had brought up a good point about messaging and crooked Hillary, that label that he had put on his Democratic opponent. Jennifer, I want to ask you a little bit, and you touched on it on your earlier in the show, about what the campaign was planning for, and then obviously the huge detour that they've had to take this week, and then sort of what you can expect from the week ahead, regardless of any outcome that we may or may not learn within the next 24 hours.
Well, there's been a great deal of fact-checking of Donald Trump's statements and prior actions by the campaign. They've released a flurry of those kind of emails, and at the end of the week, perhaps it was a diversion from what they knew was planned for today. But what is expected is that Secretary Clinton on Tuesday will be campaigning with President Obama for the first time in North Carolina. That is a key moment in the campaign. President Obama was going to campaign with her in Wisconsin, and then you remember the Orlando shooting occurred and they had to cancel that. So the fact that almost exactly a week after there was that questionable meeting of Bill Clinton and Attorney General Loretta Lynch on the tarmac in Arizona, the president is essentially coming out and will stand side by side with Hillary Clinton on Tuesday and campaign there. Then we know that on Friday, Vice President Biden will campaign with her in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So they really wanted to get this over with so that they could move on in preparation for the convention, and that's what we see happening. I think a couple of things that are notable, because I was looking at back at some of the history to Hillary Clinton's email server and what some of the regulations are, the laws are that she would have broken, and why the FBI might be investigating her. And remember, we only learned about this email server in March of 2015. This email server was set up on the very day that she was being confirmed in January 2009, when she was being confirmed as Secretary of State after President Barack Obama was elected. Later that year, in December of 2009, Barack Obama, as president, issued an executive order basically saying that classified information and records keeping had to be done in a certain way, and basically strengthening those regulations. All of the laws that potentially were broken are under U.S. Code 18. That's what the FBI would have been asking her about in that 3.5-hour interview today at FBI headquarters. Elizabeth?
All right, Jennifer Griffin reporting live. Jennifer, please stand by. Thank you so much for joining us. We're certainly going to come back to you as news develops. We appreciate it.